Hello, everybody. I guess I'm way delayed, and so it's going to be a little bit of an issue. I'm still playing catch up here. Hope everyone's doing well. Welcome to week 11. Glad you're all on board. I see y'all in the room, and we'll get started here momentarily. Give everyone a chance to show up. See what's going on. 11. Got a lot going on. People, a lot of bye-week issues to deal with, as always. Never a fun thing. Like I said, Jaguars, Dolphins, Seahawks, Buccaneers are out this week. And we've got some injury issues that we're going to have to deal with, not the least of which will be Cooper Kupp. And that's going to be a little bit of a problem. Nobody likes that. Cooper Kupp going to be at least 4 weeks. They put him on IR day. Matthew Stafford, though, looks like he'll be cleared, so he'll be back. No Dallas Goedert, no Zach Ertz. Maybe Mark Andrews back, though, back on the practice field a little bit. So that's kind of encouraging. I'd like to hear that. Gus Edwards back on the practice field as well. Andy Dalton is going to remain your starting quarterback. Thanks. Exciting. He's been doing a great job. Appreciate everyone coming. Once again, if you're new to this thing, I'm Bob Harris, senior editor, footballdiehards.com. And come here every Wednesday night, do On the Hot Seat. We'll talk about a few issues, answer some of your questions, have a good old time. Do it again every Saturday at noon Eastern time. I do nothing but your questions. If you're asking questions, do me a favor. Make this easier for me. Use a first initial with the last name or both names if you can pull it off. And do whoever the player is playing this week would be helpful as well. If you're asking for various players, it would be useful to know that. I mean, I can find it. Trying to streamline things. Nice for the entire group. That'd be fantastic. Hit the like button if you're here again. Right below me. You get these notifications for this. We also do our Saturday night live stream with Jamie Cassandra and Eric Romoff. Lineup is owners, percentages, sacks, all kinds of good stuff. They go through each matchup with Drew Phelps Saturday. Did a great job. Appreciate that. Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, 5 days a week. Monday, Thursday, Friday, 10 p.m. a.m. Eastern. Monday and Thursdays till midnight on Friday. Saturday night, catch me and Mike Dempsey from 8 to 11. Simulcast on NFL Radio and the Fantasy Channel. And Sunday, I'm on the pregame show with Jeff Mans. And you can find me at footballdiehards.com. Find all our work, tools, everything you need to run your fantasy team. Great manner, people. So with all that said, I just wanted to talk about a couple of topics before I get into your questions. And I see all your questions. Appreciate y'all coming. Hopefully, we've got the sound worked out a little bit better than it's been. We're trying something new, so let me know how that's going. If you're having any issues with that, we'd love to hear it. Scampers, good to see you. Hello, Charles. Hello, Dame. Hello, Andrea. Thanks for everyone for coming. Really appreciate y'all showing up. Let's chop it up a little bit. Wanted to touch on a couple subjects before we got into the questions a little bit. You know, beyond the losses of Cooper Kupp, you know, if you're invested in that, it's just a brutal loss. You're not going to replace that, right? Not going to replace best player at his position. The leverage over the field that you get from him, probably going to be pivoting to some other players already on your roster. If you're kind of trying to make some moves on your roster, maybe Van Jefferson's still out there. I don't know that the answer is going to be found on the Los Angeles receiving corps. And the same with the Zach Ertz. You know, I mean, do you want to go Trey McBride? Maybe they promote Max Williams from the practice squad. Dallas Goedert. I know, tight ends kind of become a position where, boy, you miss out on the players that are being consistently productive. You're going to be in a little bit of trouble, right? You don't like that. So there are some tight ends streaming out there. Cole Kmet on the rise. So, I think there's some other players out there. Maybe we can get into that in the question section. But it's tough. Some of these cases where you have the injury issues, just to dive in and it's not like a running back where you can maybe get a plug and play replacement from the very same roster. You're just not going to find that. So you got to scramble along, do what you can. Hopefully, you have solid depth that you've drafted along the way, or develop some players who will give you a little more production than you expected. Maybe some players coming back. Maybe Hollywood Brown back this week. Out there on your waiver wire, be looking for him. He's been cleared to return to practice. There are a few players out there you want to keep an eye out for that have been designated to return, but for the most part, placing Cooper Kupp is going to be back. I want to talk about also, in the quarterback situations, Kyler Murray, almost like ran this offense with Kyler Murray. Maybe I've been wrong all along. I thought it was a Cliff Kingsbury problem. And Matthew Stafford, John Wolford not appreciably better, so it'd be great to have him back. Don't know that Andy Dalton's going to be the answer to anybody's questions. Quarterback was hoping to get James Winston, at least maybe willingness to bring it down the field a little bit. But it's not been great for the offense. I think the bigger problem for the Saints offense now is coaching. Involved best player. Alvin Kamara's there, people. Get with it. Hey, Craig. Hey, Anthony. Thanks for coming in. Hey, Steven. We'll jump to questions here in a minute. But I also wanted to talk about, the backfield committees. And we have apparently a new committee that none of us wanted or maybe saw coming. And Christian McCaffrey joined in the fray by Elijah Mitchell, who returned from IR this past week. He traded Jeff Wilson, who made another committee, by the way, in Miami. And I say this committee, it's kind of, you look at it as a bad thing. Maybe it's not the most horrible thing in the world. So, like for Christian McCaffrey, for example, kind of one of the benefits of having him is he produces at a player and a half level, right? That 30-point upside. Well, that's probably going to be capital. Not going to be that guy anymore. But we get a second player in the mix who maybe is going to be a playable commodity in Elijah Mitchell. You're still going to be able to play Christian McCaffrey. Dwayne McFarland, Fantasy Life on Twitter, did a great follow if you don't follow him. Mentioned that, so Christian McCaffrey is now going to be maybe an 18 to 22 point a game guy instead of a 25 plus point game a guy. Still a pretty solid play, and there will be weeks where he hits that upside. But in addition, we have Elijah Mitchell, who maybe is a playable commodity every week as well. And the same thing in Miami. I mean, my Raheem Mostert share starts smiling at me about the arrival of Jeff Wilson, but in the end, it looks like we're going to have two viable running backs here. And that's not always the case where you have multiple backs. Let's say in Denver, you got to kind of pick one. I don't know if they're, that offense is going to score multiple backs. And then we have a couple places where the single running back is kind of taken hold, like Dameon Pierce. Benjamin is thought he was getting his way out of a situation in Arizona. James Conner returns to get 90+% of the snaps last week, and Benjamin's not happy. They move on. Benjamin. Houston first up on the waiver. I don't think Eno Benjamin is going to come in and be in a committee with Dameon Pierce. He's going to spell Dameon Pierce, and that's the difference, right? Looking for guys for those true lead backs. I think that's going to change for Saquon Barkley. That's not going to change for Jonathan Taylor. In fact, it's going to remain unchanged for Jonathan Taylor with Nyheim Hines gone. There's less to cut short, in my estimation. Maybe Deion Jackson today. So all these twists and turns as we go through a season, people. That's why I call it all the season as an evolution. Never count yourself in or out of anything. Keep your mind open to these changes, to these evolving situations, and try to leverage them to your advantage. Some of these multiple running back situations. There's some where we thought they were going to be maybe running backs like Seattle, where it's going to be one guy. Injuries can happen. Attrition is a real thing. So hang on to your pieces. I feel like, I don't know why I hung on to Elijah Mitchell this fall. I thought about dropping him as soon as the 49ers acquired McCaffrey. I thought, well, that's it. And they trade Wilson, and then Mitchell comes back, and you have a playable commodity. So it's funny how things work out. You just got to hang with them punches. But realize, don't go into despair when, my running back, who was the elite piece, now doesn't mean necessarily he's no longer worthwhile. It just means he's to some degree. Again, Christian McCaffrey. Elijah Mitchell might be productive enough to play every week. Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson in Miami are both going to be playable commodities. So keep it in mind. Don't panic. And boy, maybe going forward in Baltimore, we're going to have a couple backs every game that are going to be playable commodities that might give you a score. It might be the difference in pushing you. So take heart, people. These situations are all open-ended, right? Nothing is, don't decide what. Something negative happens that is necessarily going to be a negative. That's going to have a negative outcome. Ride the wave and see how it goes. And who was talking about that? Team. Let's say. All right, let's get to the questions. Again, thanks to everyone for coming. And hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed. Like button so the algorithm smiles upon us. Pavia wants a wide receiver to replace Kupp. Would be possible exchange for Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields is a piece you could get a high-end play for. Generally in one quarterback teams, great quarterbacks, but when you have a piece like Fields who's separated himself from the pack and he's standing above most of the field, going to give you leverage over most of the field. I mean, you could argue back one this week, use that rushing leg. I think you can get a pretty good wide receiver. You know, maybe someone's, sitting there with Chase or can't play this week, obviously. Maybe it's going to return next week, but you find someone who's in a situation where they haven't been leaning on that player. That's one that comes right to me. I think other than that, you might have a hard time trying, a high-end receiver away, even in exchange for a quarterback like that. Everyone's probably got a quarterback. Maybe some people aren't happy with it. There are people with Rodgers, whatever. But again, as I mentioned at the top of the show, it's going to be difficult to replace Cooper Kupp, one-on-one. Obviously, he's, the best fantasy receiver in the game, best fantasy producer. There are other guys out there. Someone's going to start with Tyreek Hill in exchange for quarterback. I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't know if that's realistic. Well, what you do, Steven, go out to your league, and you look at everybody's roster, see who has a surplus at wide receiver, and you try and winnow that down to a team that maybe has a weakness at quarterback, and then you start making offers. Yeah. Willpower. Who leads the Ravens backfield against Carolina this week? Gus or Drake? I have to decide, or I can pivot and play Rondale Morris 49ers on Monday night. Well, you have a little time to figure it out. Gus Edwards is back. I'm going to lean Gus. I know a couple of the guys that write the website, Garrett Downing and Ryan Mink, had this discussion late last week, and I think they all believe it's going to be Gus Edwards as the primary piece going forward as long as he's healthy. And that's even with J.K. Dobbins. So, it'll be Gus and Drake. And when Dobbins is back, maybe it's Gus and the feeling is that this is going to be the lead piece. And, just based on the narrow band we've seen, that seems most likely. Again, this does not mean that either of them are one is like head and shoulders above the other. They're both kind of similar plays. So I like Gus better. If I had to choose between the two, it would definitely be Gus. But if I was in a position where all I had was Drake and I needed to play him, I wouldn't be like, man, over that. And I'd rather play either of them probably over Rondale Moore. Just not knowing what the quarterback situation is, not knowing if Hollywood Brown's going to get back. Maybe we get a little clarity later in the week. If he came back, on Saturday, we might have more information, better answer, based on better information. But that's where I'd be at right now. Chuck Bachman, good evening. Need a quarterback. Tannehill versus the Packers and weather. Heineke versus Texans. Bills versus Commanders. Set versus Bills. Stafford versus Saints. Heineke versus Texans would look just fine to me. Then we got to play with Monty. He is going to start this week. Sounds like Carson Wentz is cleared to throw. So I don't think Carson Wentz's finger is going to get better until the Commanders lose again. That's for sure. And for our sake, let's hope that doesn't happen or at least for the sake of those of us invested in Lauren, because clearly Taylor Heineke, I don't know that he's a better quarterback. I don't know that he certainly doesn't have a better arm. He's got a good enough arm, but what he has is confidence in his player that he plays with. Throw the ball up, let him give it back. So that's the direction I'd go there. Like Tannehill versus the Packers would be okay. I know he tossed 2 teams this week. They never toss the TD again. They'd be just happy, leaning on Derrick Henry. So, hoping, think it's Heineke and the passing attack a little more prominent feature. And I guess Houston. Joe Miller, I have a question for you in non-PPR league. Which 2 of the 3 would you rather have rest of season? Lockett, Olave, and St. Brown? I'd probably go with Lockett and St. Brown. I think Olave's a good player. Also a rookie. Also, the quarterback play isn't stellar, and there's issues with the offensive line. Maybe that's part of what's going on with the quarterback. But definitely, Smith's playing well enough and keeping an eye out for Lockett. I think that's fine. Play St. Brown. I mean, I don't think we're gonna. We shouldn't have expected last year. That end of season, late season run where he was, stopped. Maybe he can regain that momentum or some of that momentum, but he's fine as is. I'd probably take him just given the team situation in general over Olave. Oh, nice, Tom. Tim Trama. Tim. Hey, Bob. Thanks for the advice as always. Nothing as always. Need a wide receiver. Half my Darnell Mooney, George Pickens, Allen Robinson, or Van Jefferson. Your quarterback is Justin Fields. Fire me with the tight end if that helps. I want to say just in general, I'd probably be leaning Darnell Mooney here. Do we want to give Robinson that chance to be the wide receiver one? Maybe it's a whole different dynamic. Cooper Kupp, and they ask him to do totally different things. He'd be my second pick. Pickett's my next, and then Jefferson. Just need to see more from Jefferson. We need to see more from Pittsburgh's offense. Also, I'd like to see more, just in general, from that offense. Talk about running back committees. Seems like Najee Harris is in one. Though I thought maybe he responded well last week. We talked about this last week. That Jalen Moore was going to be a thing, and Jalen Moore is a thing. And so, but see, what did he get? Like 5 yards of carry? I thought it was a pretty good game for him. A little better than we've seen. He's a little beat up this week. But the Mooney over Pickens is pretty close. I'm going to go ahead and go Mooney there. I think that's the direction. But yeah, Najee Harris. We call him Najee Davenport. I don't know why Najee Davenport is in my head. There are great stories about it. Let's see. Ben Skowronek a viable option? Steve Fabian wants to know in the Rams offense. He's an option. And probably a viable one for the Rams. I don't know how viable he is from a fantasy perspective. He's been okay. It's funny they use him a little bit of fullback, use him a little bit of wide receiver, all kinds of interesting things. But obviously, there are going to be more opportunities because Cooper Kupp had a huge target. Maybe Kyron Williams gets some of that. Looks like he's emerging as the receiving option there. Don't think any of those running backs are going to be league winners for you. But if you want to give you a little PPR, maybe that'd be great. Famous Aaron needs one. Zeke if healthy. Jalen Warren. Rob for my running back 2. Need 2. Thielen. Jay Johnson. More. Appreciate your kind words. So Baker Mayfield, who's back in at quarterback, that is tough. Taking over PJ Walker, who has a high ankle sprain. I think there's reason to believe this offense in general is better than the last time we saw him. Last started week 5. When he filled in for Phillip Bucker a little bit, he threw a couple touchdowns, looked pretty good, but different offense, better offensive line. They're running the ball better. I mean, there's so it's a whole different vibe here. I don't want to go overboard on this. I'd probably play more. I want to say over Deontay Johnson. Yeah, definitely over Thielen. It's pretty close with Deontay Johnson. I want to say, Cincinnati. More, maybe a little tougher matchup. Might lean Deontay Johnson over more, just given the matchup. Not again, I'm a huge fan of Pittsburgh's offense, but I think in this case I go with that. I probably list them as Johnson more. Oh, we got the sound feedback again. Hate to hear that. We've been working on this. We have a whole new setup right now that's, trying to get it taken care of. We'll obviously have some more work to do with that, I guess. When I start Zach Wilson, so hopefully, you could make out enough of this to be helpful. You start Zach Wilson or McCoy in the Superflex, I start Zach Wilson. We aren't going to know until Monday night game. We aren't going to know until Monday night. If the McCoy's going to play. They're both day-to-day, so not too much mystery there. Maybe we get a little bit of clarity towards the end of the week. So maybe check back on Saturday. Appreciate you coming, 513 rookie. And again, I apologize for the sound. That's kind of how thing starts. Trust me, we put a lot of work into trying to eliminate it and thought we had it done. I got some waiver wire questions, but to start, non-PPR confidence in Olave this week. My confidence in Olave is he's the number 1 receiver on a lousy offense that hasn't been scoring a lot of points. So it's not high. Not high. Need 2. Christian Watson versus Tennessee. Darius Toney versus LA Chargers. Michael Pittman versus Philly. Chris Olave versus the LA Rams. So I'd probably take a shot with Christian Watson against the Tennessee defense that's, given they haven't allowed a lot of points, and I don't want to feel like I'm chasing the touchdowns because I'm not, but I think, I think Aaron Rodgers might. And there's a lot of injured players in the Tennessee defense. So I'd probably go with that. I'd probably go with Michael Pittman next, with Matt Ryan back. I hope for the best. And then it'd be a lobby for Tony. Just not sold yet on Tony's role. Look, that could change too if you come back on Saturday, because we have injury issues with Marquez Valdez-Scantling dealing with illness. We've got Mecole Hardman dealing with a mysterious abdominal injury. We've got Juju Smith-Schuster, not clear if he'll be available to go. He's in the concussion protocol. This is I think it's 4th documented concussion. This might be one you want to wait on a little bit and see. But for right now, I play Christian Watson in the night game. I was able to grab Kermit. Always on top of things. San Francisco versus Arizona. Who's the better flex, Debo or Connor? I'd probably go with Connor right now. I feel like with San Francisco, we're going to have a situation where somebody every given week is not going to show up, right? There's just so many mouths in this offense to feed. I don't know if we can do anything about it, right? I mean, you're going to have to deal with that. I think Debo's going to be a solid play every week, but if I'm looking for a little more upside, at least Connor, is the one piece in this backfield right now. Because Deontay Ingram, the only other healthy back on the roster. But mostly Connor got 96% of the snaps last week. That's what I'd want to play. Hi, Tony. Thanks for coming. Planning for the playoffs now. Number 1 in the only league where you hold on to Rashard White and Warren as a backup running back. You only get one of those? I would probably go White and Warren in that order. And Pat, PPR either way. Kind of irregardless, Pat. I was playing more for the volume and the anticipated workload. Again, I think Debo's a fine play. But we saw last week, George Kittle didn't show up, and so I just think there's going to be a piece that doesn't show up every week. I don't think this offense is going to support every single piece in each game. Tony Laswell, half point number 2, half point PPR league, better for playoffs, Goedert or Waller for tight end. Neither of them, because I don't know if either of them are going to be back. Right, they're both out at least 4 weeks. So Waller might be back a little sooner. He went on IR the week before. But do they get right back in? Do they jump immediately back into the previous role? If so, I'd rather have Goedert because he was playing pretty well and Waller wasn't. But Waller went on IR first, so he'll be back soon. And in their absence, I'd probably go Tyler Conklin. He's kind of been hit or miss, but I think he and Juwan Johnson are kind of similar. Maybe we get a little more information, and Trey McBride turns out to be a guy who's capable of handling, the Zach Ertz workload. Rookie tight ends don't usually come in and do that. They do have, I want to remember, Max Williams on the practice squad. Maybe we see him. They have Steven Anderson on the roster. Maybe they chop it up 3 ways. So just based on what I know right now, it would probably be Conklin, slightly over Johnson. Both of them very similar range. Mr. Scamper, San Francisco Miami running backs, all more usable than Kareem Hunt right now. Exactly. That's good. This could happen in some of these timeshares. And look, the timeshare in Cleveland hasn't been much of a timeshare, but something we should mention because I think it's worth noting. The Buffalo Bills and Cleveland Browns are going to be playing in 6 feet of snow, right? If they're playing in Buffalo, it's going to be a snowy day. Maybe this is a run-heavy place. Maybe we get a little more Kareem Hunt right there. But with Khalil Herbert, 513, he wants to know with pretty much done for the rest of the season. Please rank this running back from the wire, not PPR. Rashard White, Devin Singletary, Gus Edwards, Checo. I'd probably go Edwards, Singletary, probably slight lean to Pacheco over White, but those two are right on the same level. I mean, it does seem like, basically, White, the takeover is happening, but I think that's going to be a committee again. I don't think you're going to get him getting a full workload. I don't think you're going to see Pacheco getting a full workload. The Chiefs seem to be very pass heavy. Surprised to learn or not. And Jerick McKinnon seems like the more playable option. He's getting way more snaps, and maybe Pacheco can pick up the pace, right? And we're seeing DH become increasingly marginalized. So that's entirely possible. But that's the order I'd like him: Edwards, Singletary, then the other two. Kind of your preference. Maybe White a little slightly more than Pacheco. Charles Davis needs 1. Christian Watson versus Tennessee, Brandon Cooks versus Washington, George Pickens versus Cincinnati PPR. I'll probably take a shot on Christian Watson. I don't want to go overboard. I feel like sometimes when I get a lot of the same questions about the same players, I end up, sticking with the same guy. And I think it's more about the options that I'm presented with than about that one guy. But maybe sometimes it's about the one guy. Watson. I mean, he's a piece that. So the difference between Watson and Lazard is Watson has that gear. Lazard just doesn't have that extra gear. I think we're going to see more big plays or more big playability from Watson. He just has to catch them all. And he had 2 drops last week. We think back to early in the season, the big drop that we all remember, which was horrible. Aaron Rodgers remembered. Aaron Rodgers lets these guys know, right? Body language. There, man. He lets you know exactly what he's thinking. So his players know what he's thinking. But probably Watson there. Brandon Cooks seems a little slightly disinterested right now. Right? Nico Collins is commanding his share, and they're going so run heavy. And Pickens, I like him okay. I just don't know that I like the offense. Joe Rigsby, what are your thoughts on picking up Skowronek, the wide receiver pool kind of right up? I mean, if that's the case and you have room on your roster, sure. I hope you don't have to play him any given week. That's the thing. Good evening, Albert. Thank you for coming. A lot of times we pick up these pieces, and I'm fine picking them up for depth or in case of emergency, but they're kind of more in case of emergency than guys that want to be forcing into lineups. And Skowronek fall into that line. I mean, he was serviceable. Had some decent games, so if you're in a pinch, and you might be in a pinch, right? There are buys every week. There are week 14. There's 6 teams on bye. But injuries, attrition. So yes. Is this a good trade? I get Kirk and Stevenson, Christian Kirk and Ramondre Stevenson for Nick Chubb. Get Nick Chubb. I almost think you're giving up a little too much. Maybe a little too much. If you're giving up both Kirk and Stevenson, I know it's kind of uneven with Kirk a little bit, but he seemed to be coming back on. And Stevenson, I think, is a high-end running back too, with running back potential any given week. So, Mr. Scampers in a half-point PPR needs to start 2, sit 2. Gabe Davis, Singletary. Here I go on the Gabe Davis. I should think of miserable Gabe Davis. Ramondre versus New York Jets or Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith a little nicked up. He was limited today, and they around both. I'm telling you, Scampers, I want to know a little more about this damn blizzard, right? I'd like to see what's going on before I roll all the bills out. It's possible they have to move this game. There's 6 feet of snow. Lake effect stuff going on. Ramondre over Smith, though, for sure. So I guess I want to. Can we revisit this Saturday, Mr. Scampers? Provisionally, I will set a provisional lineup right now. It'd be Singletary and Ramondre. It might change a little bit if the weather's cleared up or we take a throw. So that's probably going to stay it, though. Singletary, I wasn't keen on him last week. He got the 2 touchdowns. I wasn't keen on Gabe Davis either last week. Well, but the Singletary, had he not had the touchdown, and he did. You can't take them away. Not taking them away. It wasn't all that impressive. He did get the touchdowns. Jason Wilson, cheers. Pick up 3 in PPR. Gabe Davis versus the Browns. Gabe Davis versus the Browns. Amon Ra versus the Giants. Chris Olave versus the Rams. Mike Pitt. Eagles. So I'm not averse to playing Kadarius Toney, and I think a lot of questions I'm going to not pick Kadarius Toney. I thought he was fine last week. I thought the scoring play was amazing. All those things. And Chiefs are down 3 wide receivers, or even 2 wide receivers, or even 1 wide receiver. I think Toney moves up in the rotation. We just don't know that yet. So this might be more of a Saturday question. If you're sitting here, as I sit here right now, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, and you Locke, and you Pittman, and you see what's going on with the snow, and maybe Gabe Davis moves into the conversation. And maybe all 3 top receivers are out for the Chiefs, and Kadarius Toney moves into the conversation. That's okay. I figured. I translated. I can translate. So the audio is now switching between overmodulation and garbage. I don't know what to do, guys. Out of my control. Again, put a lot of work into it, trying to get it fixed. Hopefully we'll have it fixed for Saturday when we come back. So I'll try and struggle through this and hope that you can hear something. I picked up DJ Moore a few weeks back, but he's been meh. And now Baker is back. Please rank these wide receivers on the wire, non-PPR. Toney, Lazard, Watson, Sutton. I wanted to say the two Packers receivers, but you don't want both of them. So I probably, as things stand right now, I think Lazard is, for me, the long play. I think he's going to be the more consistent play. If you want an upside play, it's Christian Watson. And I'd probably go Sutton. But I mean, I don't think you want to take more than one of those. Okay. Mark E. Just traded Andrews for Pierce and Kirk. I have Dulcich and needed wide receiver help. Roll with him. I'll pick up Moreau. I'd go ahead and pick up Moreau just in case. Wouldn't hurt. Or Hurst. I think both of us are fine. Not against McBride. Just need more evidence before I get really enthusiastic. I don't know that he's Zach Ertz. And but I do know I like Zach Ertz's role. So so if you have like a solid play, and I mean Dulcich, I think you could probably consider a guy that can play every, but not a locked in tight end one. I think he's heading in that direction. Just a lousy offense, right? So I would probably roll him out there, but maybe grab, if you want to make a spectacular play on McBride, that's fine. Or if you just want to get a steady, consistent producer. I think Hurst has been that, and Moreau can be that. In the past, our experience with Moreau is he has like one really good game, and then he kind of vanishes. If the weather in Green Bay is bad, Tony last week wants to know, do you change up who you start at the wide receiver in that game? Not necessarily. I mean, it would depend on how bad. Right? I tend to be weather agnostic. Like, I'm not weather agnostic to the point where I ignore 6 feet of snow. But generally speaking, if it's just cold, or if it's just snowing, or just raining, and not a typhoon or monsoon or 50-mile-an-hour winds or whatever, football has been played in inclement weather for winter sports. So, production happens and all those things. So if they're my best player, I use it as a hair splitter. So if I have a really good player playing in lousy weather versus a just a guy player playing in great weather. Blizzards, Steven, game overboard. Garrett Wilson in New England or Brandon Cooks versus Washington. I'd probably lean Cooks, but probably Wilson isn't bad. Wilson's been doing okay. I want to say Cooks, but it's just hard to play him right now. I'm going to go with Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson. The other Wilson. Garrett. Zach's friend. Garrett. I'll go Garrett Wilson. So, Stephen, general feelings about offensive players in Blizzard. As I said, kind of I tend to be weather agnostic. I'm not going to ignore the fact that there's a blizzard, though. And again, I can think back a number of years ago, and Travis Speed won the FanDuel contest. It was that Philadelphia-Detroit game, and horrible, foot of snow, and he won that game. He won his $1 million in that game by playing players in that game. So, again, it's not ideal. Right? You're not looking to force guys into the rosters that are playing in lousy weather any more than you're looking for players who are hurt. So sometimes, I talk about this a lot when the players are injured. I'll just say, if two guys are really close and one of them's on the injury, I go ahead and play the one who's not injured. Right? Same thing with weather. Guys playing in decent weather or indoors, and the other guy is playing in a blizzard, I'll probably avoid that damn blizzard if I can. I'd say if I have, let's say Cooper Kupp and a healthy Cooper Kupp in a blizzard versus, Deontay Hardy in the Superdome, probably going to still play Kupp and take my chances. Debo versus Arizona or Olave versus the Rams. I'd probably Pat V still stick with Debo. Jelly of the month wants to know if PPR Jacoby Myers starter covered. Maybe so. Or there is Tony. Maybe this is one where you wait till Saturday. I do like Jacoby Myers on average week, but that is fairly tough coverage, as you mentioned. And so maybe we see what the injury situation is. Probably, especially like if Juju and Hardman are out. Yes, probably good. You have a question about Buffalo weather. Snow ends by Sunday. So I think the snow is supposed to be, I think the snow warning, the blizzard warning is done by 1 p.m. 25-mile-an-hour winds don't scare you, right? Gusts up to 50, that's not ideal, but, 25-mile-an-hour wind is generally not enough to keep me from playing. Cleaning up the snow, they'll get the snow cleaned up. Not in the stands, though. You look at the amount of snow if they can get to the game. With the playoffs in view, would you drop Brandon Cooks for the potential upside of Kadarius Toney or Donovan Jones? Yes. I think I'm a Brandon Cooks guy. It's not a good offense, right? At least the passing aspect of it is not good. So, yes, I would avoid the passing side. Yes, I would do that. Then we'll hit with the flex spot. No Judy or no Hamler. If that's the case, yes. They keep saying Judy's going to play. I don't know that I believe them, and I don't know that we should believe them. We'll know more about that. Definitely there's Hamler. So, yeah, I mean, it's not a great offense. So I don't want to outsmart myself. Las Vegas is a good matchup for him. So, yes, there. So like kind of as a DFS, outlier kind of play. Maybe I would like that better as being having to play him. But I think he's like a guy that you could play if you're like looking to avoid a zero. I think that's a safe. So yes, but let's check on Judy. Get too deep into that, and we'll know more about that. They're calling him day to day. Seems like a lie. That's just me. Dame overboard in a super SFB bowl, super flex spot. Dare I roll out Baltimore or one of Chase Claypool? They had Jefferson, Wan'Dale Robinson. I'm fixing my pocket. So I would play Baker Mayfield. Guys. Kyron Williams breakout. Don't think anyone on the Rams backfield is breaking out. That said, though, I do think it looks like he's heading for a receiving role in that offense. And since they can't run, maybe the receiving role is worth something. So hoping for the best. Up there in Canada, we play football in Celsius, and still not exactly right. I mean, look, I think that's the thing. We get into these circumstances where something is horrible, and we're convinced it's the most thing ever, right? And it's bad, but is it like totally horrible? No, it's just like so. I can think of situations going into the season, right, where we weren't sure what the quarterback situation was going to be in Seattle, and you look at the prices we were paying for DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett, or look at the price we were paying for Amari Cooper, because we thought, wow, Jacoby Brissett. It's not as great as we thought it was going to be, right? So I think we tend to overblow these things, whether it's weather, whether it's a absence of a player, whether it's a really great matchup, right? I mean, we because it's on our mind, and maybe we sometimes overthink it. Imagine that fantasy managers overthinking. But yes, football, winter sport, often played in cold weather, often points for 513. Reflecting back to my question on defensive lobby, would you feel better starting Michael Pittman or Josh Palmer? Choosing between the two, that would be a Saturday question when we know more about Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. If both those or one of those guys are back, I'd be more confident Michael Pittman. I think Matt Ryan changes the game, changes the playing field, but I think Pittman and Harris Campbell both remain relevant plays and maybe even good high volume plays. I do think they're going to be run heavy. I think under Jeff Saturday they're going to run. I'm fine with that. Taylor investors are fine with that, but we'll see where that goes. I'm not complaining about the audio. No, I appreciate the feedback, and we're having the feedback. Look, and again, I don't want to dig too deep into this, but we've had issues with this. It hasn't been on the Wednesday night show, so it's been more on the Saturday shows, and there's supposedly some reasons using the software we use to connect up to the YouTube. And so we've kind of put a lot of time and energy into to rectifying that, and we're trying a new approach to how we're doing it. And so if I seem like I'm not happy, it's not that you're complaining about it. It's just that it's there, and we put a lot of effort into working on it, and we'll continue to do it until we get it right. Of course. Nolan Katz, thank you. Against 2 tight ends in DFS. No, I'm not against that. I do that a lot. I play a lot of tournaments, right? So I'm kind of trying to be a little contrarian and differentiate a little bit. So yes, I sometimes do that. So I'm not against it at all. And I like all those tight ends except. Did you try it, Nolan, with those guys this week? What? Tell me more about this. Yes, 1 year. I remember that game too. McCoy went off. Well, it happens. Would I play so nice mid-tier? I think I missed that. in a previous question. Andrea, play Marquise Brown coming off IR. I would if I knew for sure he was playing. I guess ideally I'd like to give it a week, but if I get in position, I mean, I went through and set my provisional lineups today. Boy, some of them I'm in a rough spot. I would love to play Marquise. Some of those leagues I have Marquise Brown. I would like to put him in provisionally because the rest of my options are so damn bad. You're all out there scouring the same waiver wires I am. It's tough. It's tough sledding out there in the waiver wire. So I'd be watching this, Andrea. The problem is going to be, unless you have a fallback for in the Monday night game, and you may well, like San Francisco, Juan Jennings, someone maybe grab. It's going to be tough because they don't have to. So let's say if they're coming off IR for the Sunday games, they have to announce that. They have to activate them on Saturday. For the Monday night game, they don't have to do it until Monday. So it might be a little bit of an issue there. And that's going to be the thing. So have a piece in place. But if he's playing, I might give him a shot. Yes, Dame, what Dame says. Hit the like button. I appreciate y'all coming and putting up with the sound issues. And again, we'll continue to work on this. We'll never give up. Yeah, look, I can see him down. Trying to find new ways to figure this out. Can you please elaborate about Nico Collins and Treylon Burks rest of Steven? Yes, I can. I thought the usage of Treylon Burks was great. I just wish he was on an offense where it wasn't going to be, totally run heavy. And I guess we could say the same about Nico Collins. Pretty impressed with Collins in his first, in this game back. He outperformed Brandon Cooks, and Brandon Cooks kind of been my guy. I just want to see what the targets were. 10 targets. I mean, that's a lot of targets. Brandon Cooks got 7 top 4. Honestly, I don't want to, I don't want to go overboard on Houston's offense on any pieces not named Dameon Pierce. I think those are the pieces. That's the piece I want to play. But I do think Nico Collins is able to commodity. Treylon Burks may well get there. I don't think he's there for me yet. The rest of the season, down the stretch, I thought there were some portions of his usage that may be encouraging, or just, maybe it was just that it was the first game back. It kind of, I found it feeling. I want to say, let me look at the numbers here. 75% route participation, which is pretty good. 18% target share. So yeah, I think this is I think he's in a position. I think the rest of the season, this is not a pass heavy offense, right? We know that, but they don't have a ton of targets. So I like him. I like him a little bit for the rest of the season. I enough to roster him and take a chance that way. I want to go overboard. And probably like him more than Nico Collins. But I think they're both, I think Collins is like a solid look, gives you a solid floor. Jamming, yes, I'm jamming 2 high-end wide receivers and Schultz with Met or Hawkins. Yeah. Schultz is coming on. He's a sneaky play there. Do I rank Hollywood Brown, Tyler Higbee the rest of the season? I think Tyler Higbee is by default a top 10, tight end just based on the pieces that are missing there. Cooper Kupp. He's been, the target shares have kind of gone down for him, but we've seen it earlier this season. He's been a bigger factor. So I kind of like him. This one, but I'll get back to this. Hollywood Brown seems like he'll be the higher end play, even playing, alongside DeAndre Hopkins, which kind of seemed to be the plan going in when they acquired him. They were looking for a piece. And by the way, the Texans always thought Hopkins was at his best when he had a speed phone and working opposite. They needed that. So maybe the Cardinals have dialed up that same thing for the same reason. But I like Hollywood. Brown. I think he could be a wide receiver too down the stretch. Higbee, it's a shallow pool tight end. He could be a tight end 1, but like low round. Steven said he'd love to use Pitts, but in flex that feels too risky. It does. It still seems. Go to any of these receiving assets and Atlanta. Val's the GOAT. Well, who do you think I could get for a package of Hollywood and Zeke Rashad White? I don't know, but I know what you need to do. You need to go out and find out, first of all, you need to know what do you need? What are you looking for? And so when you figure that out, you go out and you find who has the things you need and then who needs the things you have. It requires legwork. I guess that's this is my nice way of saying, you got to go out there and do it. I can't sit here and, remotely say, hey, you can do this. The managers in your league, you can check your rosters, and that's the process, though. Get the legwork done. Look at everyone's roster. Who has the piece I need? Then you look at the roster, the pieces you need, and you say, oh, who has what who needs what I have? That's the process. Pat B, thoughts on Sutton versus Las Vegas? He's been on my bench for weeks. Severe trust issues there. You should remain that way. I was encouraged by how he played after Jerry Jeudy left on Sunday. I thought it was exciting. I don't want to read too much into it because it's a horrible offense. Right? They're just not. They're not scoring a lot of points. So, concerned. I sharing your trust issues, Pat B. Caden Luke wants to start too. Pittman, Sutton, and Ayuk. I feel like I'm way too all in on Pittman. I'd probably play them in that. I want to say I'd play them in that order. Pittman, Ayuk. I like the way Ayuk is coming on. I'm not. I think it's good, but something I said earlier. So I'm probably going to go ahead and play Ayuk this week. I think there's going to be weeks where somebody doesn't show up at this offense. I said, but I would order them Ayuk, Pittman, and Sutton. Even in favorable matchups. I'm just not. I feel like I should be more keen on the Denver, but I'm just not. Darth Tua, hello. Nice to see you back here, Darth. Non-PPR, Fields versus Atlanta, Lamar versus Carolina, or Press versus Scott versus Minnesota. It'd be, one of the top two. Top 10 quarterbacks here, so anything is fair game. I would play Fields over Jackson right now and do both of them over Press. Play that heater. Fields is rolling. They've got the offense dialed in to make great use of it. So I would go ahead and keep him, one of the things when you have these, situations like this where you have like three guys that are literally top 10. They will be ranked top 10 this week. How do you do that? What's the magic formula? You talk to people like Jeff Mans from the league or myself. It's you set up a depth chart, right? You have your own depth chart, just like the team does. And because otherwise, we're going to sit here and we're going to overthink it every week. We're going to be going back and forth. And that doesn't mean you're going to be right every week. But you have to have an approach. Just hit or miss, scattershot usage of players. Ends up with hit or miss scattershot results. So I would have a depth chart and I would set it up. And I probably Fields would be at the top of my depth chart over Lamar slightly. That's just how it is. It's maybe over the maybe you see it differently, but however you see it, you should set it up like that. So you're playing one guy looking, oh, this is a horrible matchup. How horrible would a matchup have to be to get not play that guy? Then you're looking at those decisions. But generally speaking, we can drive ourselves crazy. Because we're fantasy. Justin Jefferson, Andrea says, has a toe injury. He does. He was limited in practice today. You hate to see that. Other than being limited in practice, I don't know that Justin Jefferson has any limits. Not based on what we saw in Buffalo, right? That was a phenomenal game. What do y'all think of that game? When was the last time you saw a game that good? Just chime in if you think of a game that just like a recent game. I can go back. I want to say there was a Rams-Kansas City game on Monday night. It was amazing. I was talking about this with Mike Dempsey, my co-host on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. You can listen to us Monday, Thursday, Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. You can listen to us Saturday. But we were talking about this, and we were thinking back to some of the great games of all time. The Miami Chargers game, the 91 divisional playoff game in Miami. Chargers won. It seemed like it was endless. It's a great game. That's true. Should we go get KJ Hamler? It is true that he is limited in practice. It's not to say he's going to miss time or be out. They might just be resting him. It might be a minor issue. We don't have a lot of information. I think this is the point where some of these injuries that we get the injury report on Wednesday is the initial injury report. A lot of times guys are rested. They just give that day to get a little extra treatment or whatever. Exactly. Justin Jefferson could be fairly limited, but those can be a big deal, right? They should be, they shouldn't be overlooked. I can remember back when Marshall Faulk was in the Colts, he played on a turf toe. I've had one. Horrible turf toe. I have a turf toe that still bothers me that I did when I was 18 years old. I'm not going to tell you how old I am now, but it's very old. Not 18 anymore. It's been like 40 years. This thing is still an issue. More than 40 years. So it still bothers me. So turf toes are, they're no joke, right? Marshall Faulk, when, I want to say 90s or something with the Colts, they would play him and give him the pain killing injections. Then they'd have to take him and immobilize him. They put him in the hospital overnight after the game. So I thought that was an amazing game as well. Vikings, man, just Vikings have been a pretty good team. I've been impressed. Some of these first year coaches have had a lot more success than other ones. I see the Denver fans out there shaking their emotion. Brian Daboll's and Kevin O'Connell's of the world coming in and turning their teams around, and your guys not so. But it was an amazing game. Everything. You're right. Charles Davis. The game was amazing at all. Big stops, catches, runs, unbelievable turnovers. Totally fantastic. Kenyon Drake running efficiently. Any hunches Gus Edwards' return might be more in a committee. I think it will be a committee, but I think Gus will be the lead portion. And again, I'm kind of basing this on a discussion on the Ravens website between Ryan Mink, who's been there forever, and Garrett Downing, who's been there for a while too. And that was kind of their view. Is this, just trying to suss out the running back. And there's an article on this on Football Diehards. And I'll have more on it, but I mentioned it in my notes this week. If you don't go there, just go there. It's a website. You can 15% off. Promo code Diehard. There you go. I just did you a favor. But I think it's going to be a committee. But I think Edwards is part of the committee no matter what, and that was their view, right? When J.K. Dobbins comes back, he'll mix in behind Gus, and maybe we'll see less Kenyon Drake then. But for right now, I think Kenyon Drake looks pretty damn good, and if Gus Edwards isn't ready to go, he looks great. It's not just me, or have most games been kind of blah so far this season? A lot of games have been just blah so far this season. I think in the moment it always seems like like that's kind of the case in the moment. I think it's not always like when we sit back and reflect it. But the scoring is down. NFL scoring is down. And if you look at your your week stats and whatnot on your commissioner sites and where your league scoring is held, check your average scoring quarterbacks down. I mean, used to be 20 plus points was pretty attainable, and this year it's been less than that. So very interesting. All right, I see the questions drying up. We're going to go back and regroup, reset our sound, continue to work on this. We will get it fixed, people. I can see Mole. He's got the hammer and chisel out. He's working diligently on improving the entire setup as we speak. We put a lot of effort into it. Just apologies if it's not up to par just yet, but we're putting a lot of effort into it, and we will get it there. I have no doubt. And so appreciate you coming and sticking around if you did. And I'll be back on Saturday, and I'll try again. Also, we'll have Saturday night DFS lineup show with Jamie and Eric. Jamie will be back, and tons of good content there. So don't miss out on that. Always hit the Football Diehards website. All the latest news and information will be available to you there. Constant flow, tons of great content, great contributors as well. So don't miss out on that. And again, it's on Sirius XM Sports Radio, Football Diehards. We'll talk to you Saturday. Thanks again. Will Power complaining about the refereeing. I hear you, man. Hello. Yeah, I hear you now. I have my sound off. Are we still live? Are we still live? All right. Hello, hello. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11,327,429. Yeah. Yeah, I can't hear me, so like we have like a minute. All right. Okay.